At first glance, it sounds cold, harsh, even unfair. Nobody cares. Work harder. It echoes like a slap in the face when you're already down, and maybe that's exactly why it lingers. Because somewhere beneath the discomfort, beneath the sting of the words, is a challenge we all secretly need to face. Nobody cares. Work harder. Not because people are heartless. Not because your struggle is invisible. Not because your pain doesn't matter, but because the world is moving, and it will keep moving, with or without your participation. We live in a time where being seen is currency, where expressing pain and waiting for validation has become a cultural norm. And while there's nothing wrong with seeking support, there's a dangerous trap in believing that someone else is responsible for fixing what we must face ourselves. At some point, you have to decide, am I going to wait for someone to care? Or am I going to get to work anyway? The truth is, most people are too busy fighting their own battles to carry yours. That's not cruelty, that's reality, and that reality isn't meant to make you bitter. It's meant to make you stronger, because when you stop waiting to be rescued, you realize you were never powerless to begin with. Hard work isn't a punishment, it's a privilege. It's a declaration that says, I will not be defined by my circumstances. I will not be shaped by how easy or hard life is. I will be shaped by what I do with it. So let's reframe the idea. Nobody cares. Work harder doesn't mean your emotions are invalid. It means your emotions are not the finish line. They're not where the story ends. They're where the work begins. Yes, life is unfair. Yes, some people start with more. Yes, it's exhausting when others get ahead with shortcuts while you grind in silence. But comparison is a thief. It robs you of your focus, your potential, your ownership of your own path. The question isn't, why is it harder for me? The question is, what will I do with what I've been given, when no one's watching? When there's no applause, when progress is invisible, when you feel like you're the only one showing up while everyone else coasts, that's when it matters most, because real strength isn't built in the spotlight. It's forged in the shadows, in the mornings you don't want to wake up, in the hours you want to quit, in the moments you wonder if it's worth it, and then, you do it anyway. You work harder, not to impress others, but to honor who you are. That's the deeper truth people often miss. Working harder isn't about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about aligning your effort with your values, about refusing to let your potential go to waste, about knowing in your bones that you were built for more, and acting on that belief. Nobody can give you that sense of purpose. Nobody can hand you that drive. It has to be discovered, cultivated, protected. So if nobody cares, work harder, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right, because you are capable of more than most people will ever understand. And here's where it gets powerful. When you work harder, you become the kind of person who cares. You become the mentor you never had. You become the voice someone else needs. You become the example of what's possible. That's leadership, not in title, but in behavior, not in authority, but in integrity. Hard work becomes contagious, not because it's trendy, but because it's real, because people can see the consistency in your actions. And in a world full of noise and shortcuts that lead nowhere, that consistency stands out. We admire those who push through, not because they're superhuman, but because they remind us what's possible when we stop waiting and start moving. So no, you don't have to be the loudest, you don't have to explain your pain, you don't have to justify your hustle. You just have to keep showing up, relentlessly, quietly, with conviction, because the truth is, life will test you. People will doubt you. You will doubt yourself. But the one thing you control every day is your response, and your response is work. Focused work, intentional work, hard work, not because it guarantees results overnight, but because it creates momentum. It shapes identity, it builds character, and when you put in that kind of work consistently, something amazing happens. The results show up, not just in your performance, but in who you become. You become dependable, disciplined, grounded, resilient. You stop being driven by mood, by recognition, by praise, and you start being driven by mission. That shift changes everything, because when you're driven by mission, the obstacles don't feel like roadblocks. They feel like part of the process. You stop expecting it to be easy, you start expecting it to be worth it. And suddenly you no longer need people to care, you show up with purpose, and you move with resolve. And over time, people will care, not because you demanded it, but because you earned their attention through your example. That's how legacy is built, not by asking for it, by earning it. So when you feel overlooked, discouraged, unseen, remember, this is not a punishment. This is an invitation to go deeper, to ask better questions, to rise when no one else does. Nobody cares, fine, be the one who does. Care more than anyone else. Care about the quality of your work. Care about your character. Care about how you show up when no one's looking. Care enough to keep going when quitting would be easier. Work harder, not to chase perfection, but to chase meaning, because the world doesn't need more people who complain. It needs more people who contribute. It doesn't need more noise. It needs more signal, and you don't need more approval. You need more alignment. So let this phrase echo not as a rebuke, but as a reminder. Nobody cares, work harder. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it strip away excuses. Let it call out the leader in you, because you weren't made to coast. You were made to create, to contribute, to carry the weight that others avoid, and to do so with pride, not bitterness. And in time, you'll look back and realize, all the quiet effort, all the hard days, all the unseen grind, it wasn't for nothing. It was the foundation, and everything you're building now starts with what you decide to do today. So don't wait to be noticed, be driven, be deliberate, be the one who works harder, not because nobody cares, but because you do. Life gets real the moment we realize that the cavalry isn't coming. There's no secret shortcut, no savior on the way, no miracle waiting around the corner. The people we imagine will one day swoop in to recognize our potential, promote our worth, or validate our struggle. Most of them are too busy navigating their own chaos to even notice. This realization stings at first. It's sobering, especially in a world that subtly conditions us to believe that if we suffer long enough, someone will eventually step in and reward us. But the truth is liberating once accepted. It forces us to take radical ownership of our lives. It teaches us that progress doesn't begin with help, it begins with accountability. Accountability is power. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about reclaiming the agency to shape your own outcomes. It means asking better questions, not why is this happening to me, but what can I do about this now? That small shift in mindset moves you from victim to leader. Ownership doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. It means you stop waiting for motivation, waiting for support, waiting for things to get easier. The clock is ticking either way, so why not move? When you stop expecting the world to care, you stop being disappointed by it. And from that place, you can begin to build something meaningful, not because someone told you to, but because you decided to. And something incredible happens when you live like that. People start noticing, not because you begged them to, but because purpose is magnetic. Quiet consistency is rare. Those who own their struggle and still show up are the ones who earn respect over time. So yes, nobody's coming to save you, but the person you're waiting for is already in the room. It's you. The question is whether you're willing to meet yourself with honesty, grit, and enough self-respect to act, even without applause. That's the kind of ownership that transforms people. There's a dangerous narrative floating around that hard work is inherently toxic. That if something requires sustained effort, discomfort, or persistence, it must mean you're on the wrong path or burning out. And yes, overworking for empty outcomes is unhealthy. But hard work, done with clarity and purpose, is not punishment. It's a declaration of dignity. Working hard for something you believe in, especially when no one is watching, is how self-respect is built. Not the kind of respect that comes from external praise, but the kind that grows from within. The kind that lets you sleep well at night, knowing you did what you said you would do. When you consistently show up for yourself, you begin to trust yourself. And self-trust is one of the rarest and most valuable currencies in the world. It's not about working yourself into the ground. It's about showing up with integrity. It's about keeping the promises you make in private. Anyone can act inspired when things are going well, but showing up when you're tired, uncertain, or unmotivated, that's when character is built. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's not flashy, it's the quiet decision to move forward when every excuse would make sense, and every time you honor that decision, you reinforce your identity. I am someone who does hard things. We often think we need more motivation, but what we really need is more proof to ourselves that we follow through. Every task finished, every early morning honored, every commitment kept becomes another brick in the foundation of unshakable self-respect. Because when it gets hard, and it will, it won't be motivation that carries you. It will be belief, belief that you've done it before, belief that you don't quit just because it's hard, belief that you are capable of more than you once imagined. Hard work done with intention is not about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you're someone who shows up. And when you do that enough times, you start to lead, not from position, but from presence. So no, hard work isn't punishment. It's a privilege. It's how you become the kind of person you can be proud of.